Now, hypothetically, with all that's happened now, especially in the US, do you think that if Eastbound and Down was to premiere this year, would it have the same effect as what it would have done 10 years ago?
Honestly,
because there's a lot of things that are very touchy.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
But honestly, I don't know if it could live. Like, I think yes, and I think no.
Yeah.
I think yes, because again, it like ran the gamut of what it did to everyone across the board. Like the biggest like joke, quote unquote, was Kenny. You know, like it was like he was he was like the butt of the joke like a lot of the times, and he didn't even know it. Sometimes
Yeah.
he did, sometimes he didn't. But I think because it ran the gamut that it could potentially live here, there are some things obviously that wouldn't be okay. Like I know I always, from my Latino friends, you know, not so like, on the deal, but not so on the deal. They would always throw like, like we have to stop playing like maids and cholos and stuff because, we're keeping our own people down. And my thing is always like, but those people do exist in our community. So
Yes.
there ain't no shame in that game. Like they're still working. Like,
Absolutely.
if I'm playing a maid that looks like me exists. Like,
Yes.
why are you telling me that I can't portray her because like it's keeping our culture down? Then what are you saying about her? That her job doesn't matter? So I'm always like, okay, I think people are very quick to get really offended. I do
Yes.
think that there was supposed to be a reckoning in order for some things to shift, like with the Me Too movement and stuff. But then there's such a thing as overcorrecting,
And
right?
like we were saying before, like you're acting.
Yeah,
It's not it's not
yeah,
real. It's a story. It's fun.
yeah,
It's entertainment. And
yeah.
like you said before, I think they take it a little bit too. They're a little bit too
Yeah.
sensitive.
At times I do believe that, and I'm just like, oh, come on, guys! Like there's other things that we can definitely fight about.
And you know
Maybe
what?
that's not
And
the
you know what?
thing
If
that
you,
you,
oh,
yeah.
sorry, Liz.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Liz.
It's okay.
If you don't like it, turn it off.
Yeah,
Don't watch.
just
You know
move
what I
along. Just like even on Facebook, like why get into these fights on Facebook? Just if you don't like it,
That's
just
right.
you have the ability to scroll right along. Like, why do you need to? So I mean, like literally when I post stuff, because I'm very politically outspoken, and I know that a lot of people don't agree with me. I had someone who I considered not a dear friend, but just a friend who is from Australia, and he was very much involved in our politics and what was happening with Black Lives Matter, and like he was just like going on tirades. And one time he posted something and I liked a comment of someone saying something against what he was saying, because I wasn't going to go and create dialogue with him because I knew that I was going to change his mind. And there was no point in me doing that because I'm like, all I'm going to do is end up angry at this person. And, overall, I like him. But because he saw that I liked that person, he sent me this massive tirade through Messenger. And I'm like, dude, like the fact that you went off on a tirade because I liked someone else's comment in your thread says more about you than it says about me.
Yeah,
I've
definitely.
told you several times, I disagree with you. Let's agree to disagree, but you're not letting it go. And
Yes.
so then he blocked me and he unfriended me, and I was like, that's cool. You're
Yeah.
doing me a favor because I don't need this drama, dude. Like I
Positive
thought we were
people.
cool, but and he was a fan because he met me because of the Greasy Strangler, and I met him and his
Right.
girlfriend in person. But I'm just like, this is too much drama. Like I freaking invited him to Marilyn Manson's 50th birthday.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like we were cool, but then it was just like, okay, like we're not all going to agree on these politics. And it's just I used to get more involved. Like in 2016 I was very highly involved, but then now I'm just like, I'm not losing friendships with people because ideologically we disagree. I'm like, now if you are trying to impose like on my rights, like in my right to choose as a woman, in my right as a human being, and tell me to go back to my country, then I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself and we're done. But as long as like you're not doing that and I'm not doing that back to you, I'm cool. Let's just not discuss it. Like, let's
Yes.
not talk about gun control because I know where you stand. You know where I stand. That's only going to cause a fight. I know, you're a Republican and I'm a liberal Democrat. Let's just not discuss it because we're going to vote the way we're going to vote, and nobody's going to know who we vote for but us when we go to the ballot box, right?
That's right.
Um, so yeah, so that whole thing, and then just the overcorrecting that's been happening, and it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
So what I want to talk.
Where to go, like what to do, because sometimes I feel like Latinos, we're kind of stuck in the middle. Like I think Margaret Cho said it best. She's like, when it's like black, when it's like white against black or black against white, Latinos and Asians are like, what do we do? Where do we go? What do we do? Because sometimes we're not even part of the conversation, you know? So it's just a very, a very, very weird environment that we're in. But I think it'll correct itself, and there'll be some happy medium, although I think there's things that definitely need to, like Black Lives Matter, things like that. I really do believe like it needs to happen, because I can't be blind to the fact that yes, Black men are murdered by the police at a higher rate than any other race. There's no way around that. If you are saying that there isn't, then you're completely blind to it. And that's the only political thing that I would say is like Black Lives Matter, man.
Yes.
That's just it.
Absolutely. and it's just a shame that it's happened, because I've been to the US, 4 or 5 times, and I've got so many good friends over there, and it's, I just feel, I'm always worried about, like, are they okay? Seeing the things on the news and the riots, and it's just, I just hope you guys are staying safe, because I love the US, and it's, lots of good people there. So
yeah, oh, absolutely. I think there's still a lot of good people. I think that because of the, of iPhones and so readily available, we usually see the worst of the US. But I mean, I think that there's still a lot of good people, people to help each other. But yes, at the same time, yes, there are racists, there are people who are assholes, and that's always been a thing. It's just now that we get to see it a lot more, and it's oversaturation, as
I think also the media, we only see the bad things as well, so it'd be good to see some good things as well. But I know
John Krasinski's "Was It Some Good News?"
Yes,
I love it, because I'm just like, I had to stop watching the news because it was so depressing. Like, I'm like, I get it, all of this shit, and I should be informed, but I just need a break. Like, I'm not going out as it is, but I just need a little bit of a break, because, like, I loved watching Rachel Maddow, but then it just got too dark for me. So I'm just like, maybe Trevor Noah, because it's still music, but, or like, what is it? Last night with Oliver, with, oh my gosh, Weekends with Oliver. It's HBO. Why am I forgetting his name? But I love Trevor Noah. So it's like, the news is just a bit much. Both sides of the political spectrum. It's just fucked. It's all fucked.
Yeah. So let's get back to Eastbound and Down. So at the end of it, like, obviously you would have got some, people would have started recognizing you a little bit more. So how did you deal with that? Like, is this like the first time that you're like the public eye? Did you get the stalkers? Did you get the, how do you deal with media and people wanting to interview you and sort of trying to keep your personal life, quiet?
Well, I'm pretty open about my personal life. Like, I'm not really, I'm pretty much an open book, and I just kind of say what I'm thinking, which sometimes could get me into trouble. But
the truth hurts sometimes, but
recognition-wise, it's just really weird. It's a weird thing, because it's like, on the one hand, I understand it because I'm like a fangirl. Like, I love, like, if you look at my profile, it's like I'm a Kelly Clarkson fan. Like, fangirl. Like, that's my thing, my claim to fame. But it's a really weird thing when it's happening to you, because I see what I think people that I admire see when they look at me, because it's like that sort of glaze, like,
yes.
So I've seen that, but I've also seen that from like fellow actors who I've admired. Like, I remember I was at this HBO Golden Globe party, and I was walking back from the buffet line, and Bill Maher was walking towards it, and I saw that look, and I was like, "Holy shit! Is it me?" And he literally, very, very suave, taps my arm, and he's like, "I love you on the show, by the way." He's like, "You're brilliant." He just walked away.
Wow.
And I was like, holy fucking shit. That was Bill Maher. I'm like, my friend was with me. I'm like, did that just happen? And she's like, that just happened. And then I also remember using that night as like her so that she could meet Seth MacFarlane. And I was like, hi, I'm Elizabeth Razzo from like Eastbound. And he's like, yeah, I know you, Maria, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, anyways, my friend Kaylee really wants to meet you.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and also to take pictures with the people from Game of Thrones. Because I was
All
like,
right.
oh, God, yeah. But like, I would have people like Joe Manganiello come up to me because he was such a fan of our show. And he's like, I really want to be on your show. He was on True Blood. Or even Steve Buscemi. Because I went up to introduce myself to him because it was a group of us. And I was like, hi, he's like, I know who you are. He's like, you're great. And I was like, oh, thank you. Steve Buscemi, like, so it's like really cool. And then like with people who are fans of the show, yes, I wouldn't say stalkers per se, but I would say that there was a time where I was extremely naive and there's like that Map My Fitness or Map My Hike kind of thing. And I would go hike on hikes in LA. And I didn't know that I was sharing it to my Facebook account, like the routes that I was taking. And I remember it was super early one morning, like maybe like 7:30 in the morning. And I was up in this very desolate area. And I had just passed like 2 women. But then I see this guy jogging and he's not stopping. He's jogging towards me. And he's like, oh my God, you're still here. You're still here. He's like, I didn't know we were still going to be here when I got here. He's like, because I was following your route. And I was like, oh shit. Luckily he just wanted a picture, but that really scared me. And I almost started crying because I was like, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that someone would go out of their way like that. And that it could have been worse than that encounter. But he was very, very sweet. I'm not going to, put him on blast or anything, but it did scare me a little bit. And so that's one of the things that happens is that when people recognize me, I sort of start crying because I don't know what to do because I don't know, quote unquote, what they want from me. And I don't want to disappoint. And maybe that I'm not as funny in person.
You can remember what it was like with, Scully and Mulder,
Yeah. So it's always that, like, I don't know what they expect from me, if they're going to want me to be as funny as I am on the show or how they like me on the show. And even when I go into auditions now, like, they're like, we want you to be Maria. I'm like, okay, Maria doesn't work in, like, they always ask me that whenever I go in for multicam shows, which is very different than single cam comedy shows. And they want me to be Maria. I'm like, I can't be Maria because first of all, you'll never give me the liberties that I had on the show on HBO.
That's
so I
right.
can't for you. Like, there's no way. So then there's always like this look of disappointment. And I'm just like, oh God, like, I'm like, can I come here?
So then after that, you went to, I do believe you went down to South America to shoot the 33.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
So tell us about that. I've been to Brazil and Argentina. Where was this shot? And tell us a little bit of
where it happened.
Whereabouts?
Copiapó. It's about 2-hour flight from Santiago, but it's called Copiapó, which is where they actually were caved in. It's this mining town of 100,000 people. And we shot it we shot it 1 mine over from where it actually happened. And it was casted by Carla Hull, and it was directed by Patricia Regan. And I think this was her first big project. And I remember I was at the pier in Santa Monica, and my agent's like, I need you to get yourself on tape because I think I'm about to get you a deal. So I had to like leave Santa Monica, rush to get on tape and like send it to him. And I ended up getting the role. I don't even think, did I go in person? No, I don't think I went in person. They casted me off my tape. And, but I later found out that because the director was really nice to me in the beginning, most of the shoot, I was there for 7 weeks. It was the last 2 weeks that she warmed up to me. And I didn't know it was because she had her heart set on Antonio Banderas' daughter to play this role. But the producers, Edward and Robert Katz and Edward McGurran wanted me because they liked me from Eastbound and Down and thought that I had the comedy, like the comedic chops to like make the character just funny and a little different. Yeah. So I think she kind of held that against me, so she wouldn't direct me. And so Adriana Barraza, who played my scene partner most of the time, would guide me through it. And it wasn't until the last, she's probably going to hate me if she hears this. But it was true. She was not nice to me. She wasn't nice to me for a very long time. It wasn't until we went to there was this billionaire who did a cameo on the movie Farcas, who in real life, he actually gave money to the miners because he's a multi-billionaire. And so he came into the cameo and he was sitting next to me because I wasn't supposed to work that day, but Gabriel Burns needed just someone to do off camera, like talk to him as his wife. So they called me and asked me to do that. And it's like, you're not going to say no to Gabriel Burns, right?
Yes, of course.
Like, you'd be crazy. So I was sitting waiting, and Farkas was next to me, and he was really nervous. And and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, I'm just nervous. Like, how do you do this? And I said, it's just make believe. And I'm like, when we were kids, we just played make believe. That's really all it is. I'm like, there's no brain surgery involved. There's like nobody's life is at stake here. I'm like, it's just make believe. That's all you got to think about. And he's like, thank you. So originally, all of like the main people from the movie were invited to his home for a dinner. So it was like the director, Gabriel Burns, Juliette Binoche, and Kate del Castillo, Coti de Pablo, like the bigger names, Antonio and all of them. And of course, I would have never have gotten an invite. But because I was so kind to him, he sent me a personal invitation.
Oh, wow.
And then the director saw me there and she's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, he invited me. And he's like, oh, da 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 da. We were all after dinner just kind of hanging out. And Naomi, who ended up going to play Jasmine in Aladdin, the one that just came out with Will Smith, he was like, sing, like, let's sing. And she's like, I need you to play something. And she was trying to figure out what she was going to sing. And then my director looks at me and she's like, you sing. And I'm like, I'm not a monkey. And then she's like, well, can you sing or not sing? And I was like, yeah, I can sing. And I'm like, but I don't need accompaniment. I'm like, I do a cappella. And I sang this ranchera, which is traditional Mexican music. And then she's like, oh my God, I didn't know you could sing and blah, blah, blah. From that night on, she was like, my friend.
Wow.
And like some mariachi.
Oh, really? That's so cool. That's great.
The last 2 weeks of this movie. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if she knows how unkind she was to me, but she'll probably hear it from this.
But speaking of singing, you said you've also done some recording as a singer as well.
Yes, I have. I mean, I have music that I've written that I've recorded, not professionally. It's just like because it's work through. It's like workshopping it, like to try and get it somewhere. Yeah. So I have one particular one that I have an MP4 of. Because it's about actually my now husband. It's about him, and then I've done shows in LA. My vocal coach was Adriana McPhee. She's the vocal coach in American Idol now, and she's Catherine McPhee's sister. So she was my vocal coach for a very long time, and I actually went to her because I was auditioning for Glee, and I was doing On the Edge of Glory by Lady Gaga, and she was like help coaching me. And then I just started going to her classes, and she did these workshops where you would go for 6 weeks and learn 4 songs, and then you would go to this dinner in a show place and you would do a set of 4 songs and some patter, I think is what they call it. Yes. And so I did it 3 times with her. And it's because I have horrible stage fright, and I was like, I just wanted to do it because I like doing things that scare me.
So tell us about that. So, sorry, Liz, tell us about your stage fright. I'm always interested to know. Millions of people are watching you on the screen, but you said that you do have some stage fright. Do you still have it now?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes?
I hate auditioning. I hate.
Is it like a nervous, excited sort of thing?
No, it's just nervous. It's just like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Please get me out of here.
Right.
Yes, it's the stomach. My stomach starts hurting. My palms get really sweaty. My throat starts to close up and get like very dry. And it's like this fight or flight kind of thing. And it's very, very debilitating. I hate public speaking. When people have asked me to speak, I always say yes. And then I regret it every single day until I do it. And then I do it and I regret it. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh God, thank God that's done.
Yeah.
But I hate it. I hate it so much. And even when I'm on set, but see, on set, it's different because I'm not me. I'm someone else.
Yes.
So I remember I was super nervous because I had to do this speech on Vida that Tanya had written for Yoli. And she's like, what's going on with you? Like, you're so tough. And I'm like, I hate public speaking. And she's like, but you're not public speaking. Yoli is. And I was like, oh, you're right. It's not me. So that helped me. But whenever I'm singing, it's me. It's my voice. It's what I'm feeling. It's what I'm trying to emote. So that's just, even when I'm public speaking as well, it's me telling a story. People are watching me. And that is just so frightening to me. And just like, I think that's one of the reasons why I cry when people recognize me. I don't cry because I'm excited. I cry because I'm so nervous.
Yes.
I'm so nervous meeting them. And it's just, yeah, I think it's the expectation and just like this fear of like, I don't know what to say.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Absolutely. And then you went to actually, let's talk about something else. Let's do a bit of throw of a curveball. So you went down to South America to do the 33.
Yeah.
So we also talked about you actually coming to Australia as well.
Yes.
So obviously we have, my main audience is from Australia. So tell us about your experiences coming down under, as they would say.
Wonderful. I loved Australia, and I so hope that I can go and that I can take my husband, because at the time we were engaged and I wanted him to come, but he couldn't come because of work. But I spent about 15 days in Australia, traveling throughout Australia. And I went to Melbourne, to Sydney, to Ballarat, to Tasmania, to Adelaide, to Brisbane, and Sydney.
Did you come to Newcastle? Newcastle is very, very close to Sydney.
No. And I was only in Sydney for one night.
Oh,
I was so bummed. Actually, a night and a half. Well, let me see. No, one night. I was only there for one night. We got there in the afternoon. We had the event that evening, and I had to leave the next morning to fly back to LA. I didn't even get to see your opera. I saw it from a distance.
Oh, the Opera House.
Yes. I was like, why? But yeah, it was so lovely, and just like, I don't know, everybody that I met was great. I was doing this thing called Monster Fest. And so we traveled throughout, different places, and people watched the movie, and then we had like a Q&A after, and it was myself and Sky, who plays Brayden. Originally, Michael was supposed to go, but he wasn't approved his visa because he had a charge for marijuana, like from the 70s, and they didn't let him in. So then his publicist called me, and she's like, do you want to go to Australia? And I'm like, well, not at his expense. And then she's like, and Michael's like, I want you to go. I want you to go. Because originally I wasn't invited. It was just the guys. And because Michael couldn't go, I got to go. And it was really cool. It was just a really fun experience. And I got to try different things. I did this it's somewhere online where I got to try different Australian delicacies. And Vida Vegemite was one of them. Or is it
Vegemite?
Vegemite, yeah. Vida Vegemite. That's Lucy, right? Vegemite. That was awful. I think in my interview I said that it reminds me that it tastes like a hospital smells.
That's so funny because growing up, that's all I used to eat, like Vegemite on toast. Vegemite sandwiches. It was just.
Is it just basically like our peanut butter and jelly? It's
pretty much, yeah. So it's accustomed to me. So I just like, Vegemite. You got to put more Vegemite on there. There's not enough,
And you guys are super all about the Nutella too. And I'm not a big chocolate fan because I get really bad migraines from chocolate. So I was just like, yeah, not a fan. Also, I was just shocked that people don't take tips.
No,
like I had people refuse tips, and I was like, but seriously, and they're like, no, and I was like, but Americans were so used to tipping, and even like when I've gone to like Europe, now some people do expect tourists to tip now because they know that we're tippers, like you especially people from the U.S. But you're not, like it's like offensive to some people.
Nice.
So I was shocked by that. I was like, what? I'm like, but I'm supposed to give you 20%.
That's right.
Like, take my money. Why don't you give me
that's
my
right. Yeah. Oh well, maybe some people are offended by it, but I don't know. It's all included, the whole.
Well, because
You
you
get the
get
whole
paid
receipt. Yeah, you
Yeah.
get the GST, and it's all a part of the tip is a part of the actual price of the meal. So.
I was just shocked. I was like, what?
Well, it's totally different to like the first time I went to the US. I didn't tip. I ordered a pizza, and he's just like standing there. He's just standing there waiting, and it's like, okay, bye, and slam the door in front of you. And it's like, and my friend said, "Did you tip him?" And it's like, no. And I was like, oh shit. I paid $4 for the pizza, and with easy fuel, and it's like, oh damn, could we ring him up, and so that was my first experience of not tipping, but it's always interesting. How much do you tip, and some do you not tip if you don't like the service and all that, but yeah, it was all.
Even if I don't like the service, I will still tip. I will tip 10 to 15% because I'm like, okay, they're still like earning their wages through tips.
Yeah.
And even though like they weren't great, I'm not going to be an asshole.
Yes.
But obviously, if they're really awesome and then they go above and beyond, I always do like 20 to 25%, And also because my husband, when we first met, he was a waiter. So he ingrained that in me, like we make our money from tips. Like that's how we make our living. And my friend Rocky, who's an actor, waiter, manager at this restaurant, that's how he makes his money. So I'm like, okay, like I just have to think of them as Rocky or my husband at that time and tip them what I think that they should be tipped.
2016. If they didn't know you from Eastbound and Down, then I'm sure they would recognize you from the Greasy Strangler. How did that all come about? Was it because of the Eastbound and Down sort of was so popular? Is that what got you to this?
Yes.
As well?
So I got the script for the Greasy Strangler, and my agent at the time was convinced that it was going to be like Napoleon Dynamite's on steroids and have that same cult following. And I read it and I was like, I don't like this script. I'm like, it's not something that I want to do. I don't think it's funny. I didn't get it. I was very like, ugh, about it. And he's like, well, can you just go in and read? I'm like, no, I don't want to go in for it. Like, I have to prep it. I have to do all this stuff. I don't want to go in for it. He's like, well, Elijah Wood really wants to see you in this, like, because he's one of the producers and he's a fan of yours of Eastbound and Down. And I was like, I don't see it. I don't want to do it. Yeah. So we left it at that. The next day he had my manager called me, who he knows I have a better relationship with because I like him and I butted a lot, like heads a lot. And so he had her call me. He called in the big guns. And they're just like, just go. They just so that they can get you out of their head. Just go in. And I'm like, I didn't even read the script. I mean, I didn't even read the sides. I'm just like, just go. Like, you can just, do a cold read. So I went in for Amber and, oh my gosh, why am I forgetting her name? I'm such an asshole. But they're really, really sweet casting directors. And Danielle and Amber. And I had been in for them before, but this time, like they're like, hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And Jim was there or wasn't he? No, he wasn't there. So I went in, I read, and I could tell that they liked me. And I was like, okay. And I left and they called me for the test to test with with the boys, Braden and Big Ronnie. And I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. This is not something that I want to do. Plus, they were asking for full nudity. I didn't want to do that. And because they
had enough already with this band to do.
Yeah, it's like I'm like, had I liked the project, I would have been more keen on it. But I just based off of the pages, just not something that I wanted to do. But my agent had a hard on for it. Like he had a hard on for it. And the day of the test, my manager's like, just go in, just go in, just do it. Like, you don't have to do it. If they offer it to you and you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. And I was like, okay. So I went in and I remember there's one other girl reading for Janet. It was just me and her. And she was about to go in when I walked in and they asked her to wait so that I could go in. And I was like, oh, this is already bad. This is bad. This is so bad. And so they rotated. Brayton's Braden's and Big Ronnie's with me. And then I had to go put money in my meter. And I said, so I'm like, I have to go. I'm like, I'm going to get a ticket. And they're like, yeah, we'll take in the next girl. And when you come back, just let us know. So I went in very quickly to do that for my meter. And then she was only in there for maybe 5-10 minutes tops. And they pulled her out and had me go back in. And this girl had been waiting there. Like, I'm so sorry if you're out there. Like, that was such a, every time I remember going into a room and I would see like these actors that had a really great relationship with casting directors, and then you always felt very awkward because you're like sitting there and you know the casting director likes them.
Yes.
I became that actor in that moment. And I was like, oh God, I'm so over myself. This is gross.
Yeah.
So, you know, it kept going on and they're like, well, like, do you want to talk to the director? Because he's here and he wants to reassure you that everything's going to be fine. Because I was just not on board with a lot of the stuff. And I was like, okay. And he told me, he said, well, what are your concerns? And I told him, and he's like, look, nothing's going to be shot as written. He's like, we're going to cheat a lot of it. And he's like, so, and if you're ever uncomfortable, just let us know and we'll make sure that it's fine. You're never going to be, what was the other thing he said? Like, you're never going to be uncomfortable. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. And it's not going to be shot as written. And you're going to be wearing the merkin. So it's not full frontal. Like, it's, you know, it's going to be fine. And I went back home. They were trying to negotiate because at the time I had already signed on to do this other movie called Frat Pack that was being shot in Canada for like 7 weeks, I think.
Oh.
And they coincided. So I think when that was happening, my agent called me. He's like, oh my God, I feel like a CAA agent because like right now I have both movies and they're going back and forth. And then it ended up being that Elijah did some sort of a deal with the other movie so that they could push their production by like a week or two so that I can do 3 weeks on Greasy Strangler and then literally fly out the next day to Canada for this other movie. Mind you, I had just come off of Idiot Sitter because I shot Idiot Sitter from January till May something. I finished Idiot Sitter a Saturday morning at 3:00 in the morning and I had to be on set for Greasy Strangler at 11 the next day, that Saturday. And then I literally went to another movie right afterwards. So I was exhausted. And
you have time to take a break and
no, that was crazy. It was a blessing, right? But it was crazy. Yeah. I said yes. And the first day on set was cool. It was fine. I had met Elijah's producing partner at the time, Josh, who's a dick. Josh Waller, for anybody wondering, Josh Waller is his name. And he's the villain in my story. So the first day we're all cool. Like I end up going to do a test with the makeup artist who's Lex, and she's awesome. And, you know, doing the merkin stuff because she had to lay the merkin by hand on my pubic area. Yeah. So I was told that I had to go get a bikini wax before we shot with it. I started working the Saturday after I left Idiot Sitter. So I had one night after filming to get a Brazilian to shoot the next day with the merkin. So I had to find the closest place where I could get a bikini wax. And they did a horrible job, ripped off skin. And I had to show up to set the next day. So she laid it on my bare, like ripped skin. So that was awful. So like it was like the first 2 to 3 days, it was fine. Everything was cool. But I was starting to feel like they were going to push for stuff that I didn't want to do. Stuff that I was promised by Jim wasn't going to be done. Because also one of the things that really bothered me about that script was that the original script, 90% of the time, Janet was naked compared to the men. And I was like, why does she need to be naked? Like, there's no point in this scene for her to be naked. I just didn't understand it. And I figured that they were going to push a little bit, especially Josh. And I told my manager, I need you on set. I need you on set as backup for me because, you know, there's some big names attached to this, but I need to feel like I can say no.
Yes.
And so she went to set and they were the perfect definition of their perfection. Yeah. Kind and everything and supportive and stuff. As soon as she left, there was a scene where Big Ronnie's going down on Janet. And I remember Michael was on his knees and we were cheating it where he was on my inner thigh. And Jim says that it didn't look real. It looked like we were cheating it. And he said, can he get any closer? And he's British. Can he get in closer? And I was like, no, I don't feel comfortable. Oh, it just doesn't look real. And I'm doing a very horrible job at a British accent. But it's like, I'm like, no, I don't feel comfortable. And Michael was like, I don't feel comfortable either. And mind you, he is like a man in his like late 70s, diabetic, on his knees, freezing his ass off. He was also, they weren't like, you know, sometimes they weren't giving him his meals because he needed to have meals every 4 hours. Sometimes he would get so faint, you know? So without telling us, somebody tells our AD to go and push his head down without telling us. And Michael loses his balance and his nose, even though I had a courtesy like cloth, it ends up inside of my vagina. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And I went off and I got out and he was like, you're ruining the shot. I'm like, fuck you and fuck your shot. And I got up and I went to the makeup artist. I'm like, I need you to take this off. I'm leaving. I'm fucking leaving. And I'm in my robe naked with the merkin on and Josh comes into the room. And again, hi, Josh. He comes into the room and he asked the girls to leave. Because I was with two girls in the room. He asked our FX and our makeup artist to leave and left me alone with him while I was in my robe, naked and a merkin. And he's like, well, baby, what's going on? I thought we were cool. I'm like, we're not fucking cool. Like, da-da-da-da-da. And I just went off. And he's like, whoa. Let's not get all emotional about this. He's like, do you know how many actresses would kill to be in your position right now? Like, do you know, like, I could call anyone right now and they would like take this job right away. And I'm like, well, fucking call them then because I'm not doing it. And he's like, well, we can blacklist you, he tells me. And I was like, I don't fucking care. And he's like, well, Elijah's downstairs. Do you want me to call Elijah? I'm like, if you want me to tell him to go fuck himself to his face, bring him up here. I'm like, I don't care if you're the fucking president of the United States of America. I will tell you to go fuck yourself. So fuck off. Yeah. And I'm like sitting down and I'm telling him because he's standing over me, thinking he's intimidating me. Also, he's like a guy that's mildly attractive. So he usually gets what he wants. And then he's like, then he tried a different way. He tried like coaxing me and he runs his finger on my thigh. And he's like, baby. And I was like, don't you fucking touch me. Yeah. And I get Lex to come in. She takes off the merkin. I'm like walking away. I have this police baton that's it's a taser. And because we're in a really bad part of LA, and I have the AD and Josh chasing me, and I literally turn around and I looked at Josh. I'm like, if you don't want me to fucking beat you and tase you with this, get the fuck away from me. And so then the AD, he's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. And he's like, but just so you know, you have all the power. This is a $250,000 movie. We've already shot 4 days with you. Ev, the ball is in your court. So I went home. I wasn't answering anyone's calls. Elijah texted me. He's like, can I talk to you? And I said, no. I'm like, I'm not in the right headspace to talk to you right now. I'm like, I'd probably be really mean. And I'm like, so I'll just call you when I'm better. My agent was calling. My manager was calling me. I was crying on my sofa. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. I never wanted to do this. And then finally, Aunt Timpson, who is one of their producers and who I always got along with, and he's such a kind man, was able to get a hold of my agent, and they wanted to set up a meeting with the director, him and me, and what it would get to bring me back to set. And the only reason why I ended up going back to set was because I didn't want people to lose their jobs, because I knew that they couldn't replace me at that point because they had already shot 4 days. And the only reason I went back was because these people were counting on this to like maybe secure their pension for the year, maybe secure their like healthcare. And the fact that as a woman that I had to take that on in order to like, you know, go back, like it's such a shitty situation. But that's how I convinced myself to go back. But then I had a meeting with them and Jim literally brought the script and he brought a Sharpie and he says, whatever you don't want to do, here's the script. And I was like, okay, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And I'm like, I need to see all the dailies. I need you to get me a stand-in. I want you to show me what it's going to look like on camera before we even shoot it. Yes. And I'm like, and Josh Waller cannot be on set with me. If he's on set, I walk again. Yeah. And so I made all of those demands and we got through it. And then it fucking like the obvious question would be, why didn't you do that before the movie started, or you didn't realize that this was going to actually sort of happen? Well, because one, I talked to the director who said, you'll never be uncomfortable in an uncomfortable situation. And if you are, we'll change it. It's not going to be shot as written. We're going to cheat
Right.
it. And anything you don't feel comfortable doing, just let us know. And that'll be the end of it. Right.
Gotcha.
And then I also had a nudity waiver where I put everything that I wasn't going to do, but it hadn't been delivered yet because I had to shoot so quickly after Idiot Sitter that it was in the midst of just being done. So they used that time to coerce me into doing it.
Yes, gotcha.
I'm not going to say that Jim was responsible for it because Jim was a first time directing a film and he was coming from the commercial world. Although he should have been aware because he was a director. I think this was driven by Josh Waller, where he was trying to be a slimy sleazeball that he is to try and get what he could from his actor. And when trying to like baby me up didn't work, when trying to intimidate me, when trying to tell me that he was going to blacklist me and I was never going to work again, when trying to tell me that I wasn't even that good of an actress and that he could get anyone else to do it, when that didn't work, like they knew, or he knew at least, that like, no, you're not going to fuck with me. And I'm like, I don't care if I never work again, because in that moment, I truly believe that if I gave into that, I was giving a part of myself away, and that I was not standing up for myself, and that he was going to think that it was okay to do that to someone else.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not an ingenue anymore. I'm not green. I'm like, I've got, at that point, 10 years of this under my
Yes,
belt.
exactly. Yeah.
And I'm like, so no, fuck you. Like, I fucking work on Eastbound and Down with Will Ferrell and fucking Danny McBride. Fuck you. Like, who
Yes.
are you? You're nobody without Elijah Wood. Like, who the
Yes.
fuck are you? And that's literally what I was thinking. And then, of course, it goes to Sundance, and everybody loves it.
Yeah.
And I said no to Sundance. When they asked me, I said no.
Right.
And then they're like, and I'm
Is
like,
that because of the producer? Like,
yes, I don't want to be
yeah.
around.
Yeah.
And then they're like, we've already talked to him, and you don't have to see him if you don't want to. They ended up renting a house, and he was sleeping in the same house as I was.
Oh.
But I just said, I'm like, I'll go. I'm like, if I can be honest about my experience. I'm like, if they truly ask me a question that leads to that, I'm going to be honest. And they're like, okay. Recently Jim reached out to me because he wanted to release like this unedited version of one of the sex scenes, and he showed it to me before he put it out there. And I said, yeah, that's totally fine. He was asking, and I have no bad blood against like Jim or Ant or Elijah. My beef was really with Josh Waller, which I heard because I actually told this story at a wine night with some girlfriends, and I didn't know two of the girls had just signed a deal with SpectraVision, who has a new CEO who's a female, and they were brought in to diversify their portfolio, so it's two Latinas. And they're like, when I left the party, because I was a little drunk, they asked my friend, they're like, is that true? She's like, yeah, she didn't tell you all of it either. And they're like, how can we work with this company? So that following week, they went to the CEO and said, have you ever had complaints about Josh Waller? And she's like, well, like what? Well, like anything like this. And she's like, well, I've heard that he's an asshole on set. And like, yes, sometimes he demeans women, like actresses on set, but nothing too crazy. And they're like, well, we met this actress. We won't name her, but she was a lead on one of the films, and this happened. The next day he was fired. He was let go.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So that just happened like last year. They just fired him last year.
And it's following a pattern, it seems like,
Yeah. But the fact that they let him get away with it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Like, because people like that thrive on the fact that somebody lets them get away with it until somebody puts a stop to it. Why didn't anybody else like stand up to him, or even people that worked with him? Like, did they just think it was okay? Or like, I don't understand, because Elijah is such a sweet man and just so kind and, very generous person. And I'm like, how does that happen? How did that partnership happen?
Yeah.
That's what I was confused about.
I think money might have been money.
Now I enjoyed the Greasy Strangler. Now I get it. Like, now that I've had some distance from it, I get it, and I get why people love it. And yes, while I have that very bad experience on set, I'm still glad that I made it, because it was like just a different experience, and I got to be the fucking lead of a film, a female lead, and I got to meet Michael St. Michael, who I love, and he's such a gem. And you know, Jim's vision was brilliant. Like, just if you look at the color scheme and the way that he shot it, he does have a very brilliant eye. And Christina, actually, our costume designer, was so instrumental in all of our outfits. But yeah, it's just, so now I look at it differently, but I will always throw shade on Josh Waller.
I get that. Yeah, absolutely. And fair enough too. Fair enough. So let's get close to wrapping it up. Like we could talk for
I can talk forever.
and you know what? I've got all these things and I still haven't ticked it off yet. So we might have to do like a part 2 another time. But I know it's a general question, but after the pandemic, what does the future hold for Liz?
Well, right now, I'm just hoping that my sister gets better, because that's why we're here. And then hopefully go back to LA at some point, because I missed my home. Because you know how they say it's like you have the family you're born into and then the family that you make. I miss the family that I made. And so I want to go home and, I don't know, just like get back to seeing my friends and get back to, like, I mean, I'm auditioning a lot more, weirdly enough, here.
Are you doing online in roles, or like are you doing
a lot lately? Like, I just auditioned for series called, I think, Olivia, aka Physical, with Rose Byrne as a lead. And it's a really great script. I haven't heard back, but I mean, I've been auditioning like crazy. I've been auditioning more than I was auditioning the last few months that I was in LA. So it was just.
Have they started doing filming? I know you can go here in Australia. You can go to the movies now. They've opened up the cinemas, and but there's not very many new films. You know, they've been created from last year.
Well, yeah, but that's because other countries like Australia have been able to curb COVID, while we have someone who denies and one here. So we still have a lot of cases.
Yes.
And then there's some people that don't believe that it exists, and
it's a hoax or something. Yes.
Masks and aren't believing the numbers, feel that it kills less people than the flu, and
oh dear.
so you know, it's I think it's going to take us a longer time to get back to normal, because we have all of those issues here, because they've politicized it as opposed to making it about people's health. So I know some places, I know some things are filming, and I know people are taking precautions, but I don't know that like everything's back up into like full swing things. I know Animal Kingdom from TNT is shooting, but they're shooting it in small spurts, and I only know that because one of my friends just landed a role on it. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope to get back on set, but I'm also in San Antonio, where, you know, I don't know how accessible I am or accessible it will be to me. So. And
in terms of like a family in the future, yourself, do you plan to have kids?
Yeah, we do. We've been talking about it, but again, it's like kind of like getting pregnant at this moment in time. Yes. I've had friends that have done it and they've had babies during the craziness of this all. Yes. I just get scared because I'm a very sickly person in general. Yes. I'm like, so right now I'm just really working on my fitness and on, like, you know, losing weight and, you know, like not being pre-diabetic and not having high blood pressure and stuff, getting myself in the best shape that I can in order to prep my body for that, but not anytime soon.
Right. And we talked about it before, about tips, but for you, what can you recommend for an inspiring actor? We talked about it, like I said, we talked about it before, but you know, especially here in Australia, like I've got a couple of people on here that are from Australia. They're just waiting for that one break. You know what I mean? So what advice would you give to them?
I mean, I just say keep plugging away. Definitely do extra work. I will always, like, for sure say that. On camera classes, audition technique, and don't wait to join SAG if you can. Just do it. And then just one of the things is network. The reason why my best friend's manager called me was because he met me at a party where I got everyone drunk on tequila.
But that's the thing, that's the thing. If you're not out there sort of meeting people and sort of
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
networking. It's networking and workshops. Try to do workshops with casting
that's right.
directors or like, ABC, CBS. They have their casting workshops as well. Anything like that that can get you in front of the people that are going to be hiring you eventually.
Yes,
You want to do that, and also never be an asshole because you never know who you're talking to.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
unless you're
Someone
Josh
could know
Waller. If you're
somebody.
Josh Waller, you can be an asshole to him.
And the same thing, networking. We wouldn't be talking right now if I
Yeah.
didn't. You know what I mean?
If
So
you had reached out, and sometimes people don't reach out to me because they think I'm going to say no, and I'm always down. Like if I have the time, I'm
Yeah.
always down to do like an interview. Like I'm like cool. I mean, I'm a chatty person, as you can tell. Like I just go on tangents for like ever. So yeah, that's what I would say. That's what I would recommend. Yeah.
okay. And to finish off, I always just like to ask some sort of random questions, like cliche questions. It's what people like to. What's your favorite food? Something like that. So,
Thai food.
Thai food. Oh, there you go. Have you been to Thailand?
No.
Oh.
I think I would never leave if I did though, because
Yeah.
I literally just cooked because I'm on keto right now, and I
Yes.
cooked this like traditional Thai dish, but keto version. Because there's this girl that I follow on YouTube called Tippy Tales, and her sister put out this Asian keto low carb cookbook, and it's plugged for that. And I just made that dinner for tonight. It was like so delicious. Oh, I love it because I love spicy food.
Well, let's go that then. What is your top 3 cuisines? Thais first.
Yes, and then I'd say pizza, but I can't
Pizza.
have.
Italian.
Yeah, Italian.
Right.
And then I would say Chinese.
Chinese, right? Interesting.
Yeah, I love Asian food.
Well, just quietly, I actually live in Shanghai, but because of the virus,
Oh,
I'm back here in Australia. So
Oh,
I've lived in China. I've lived in China for
yeah,
4
that's
years.
why I saw that on your thing, and I was like, oh, that's weird
Mm.
because I thought he was in Australia.
Mm.
Okay, so you had
So
to
I'm
go
from.
back home.
Yeah, I had. It was my choice. So I left as soon as the outbreak happened. So, yeah, I've been here for 7 months now. But
Is it different?
I'm
Like,
going
do
to
you
I'm
home-
going to go back there. I'm going to go back there. Yeah, it's good to be home with family,
Yeah.
family, and that. So,
especially during this moment in time, like
oh, definitely. And Mum's had some health issues as well. So, it's good to be back here. So, yeah. So, next one is what is your top 3 favorite actors of all time?
I mean, it's probably going to be mostly females. I mean, I love actors too, but I'm always, because she'll always have a special place in my heart, and I think that she's brilliant and so sorely underrated. Gillian Anderson.
Yes.
I think if you watch her,
Do you think because of it was a typecast of
Yes.
her being the X-Files, she couldn't
Absolutely.
go?
But she's done so much brilliant work since then.
Yes,
Like she's
agreed.
still very much like Scully, and I love Scully. Don't get me wrong. Although season 10 and 11, God, they were phoning it in.
Yes.
But I like, if you saw her in The Fall or even in Hannibal, like she is a brilliant actor. Like she is like a legit brilliant actor, and I don't think she gets the credit that she deserves. So I love her. Who else? Oh my God, that's so tough because there's so many actresses that I do like. I don't know. That she's the first one that comes to my mind. I mean, actors, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes.
I just think that man
Classy.
is so brilliant at his craft and truly a craftsman at what he does. He is truly, truly brilliant. And then for third, it's a tie. This is going to be such a really weird tie between Kate Winslet and Harvey Keitel.
Right. That's a different. That's a very.
Did you ever watch Holy Smoke?
What's
She's in a cult, and Holy Smoke with Harvey Keitel and Kate Winslet, where she's in a cult and he's trying to get her into programmer, but then he ends up falling in love with her, and then she's like doesn't get him to do program. Like it's a brilliant film. It's like a super indie film from like years ago. But but I love Harvey Keitel and Kate Winslet, so it's a toss between them two. Yeah.
All right. And tell me, what are the 3 countries that you've been to? Your favorite countries you've been to? France,
Australia,
yes.
and Italy.
And where do you want to go to after the pandemic? Like for a holiday, not for business.
It's right now. It's a toss-up between Germany and Spain.
Right.
But my husband wants to go to Ireland, so maybe Ireland. Maybe we could do like Ireland and Spain, like Ireland, Scotland, Spain, something like that. Oh, that's such a weird combo. But Germany, I really want to go to Germany. I want to go to Berlin. I want to go to Munich. I want to go to Hamburg. My friend Jojo lives in Hamburg with her parents, so I'd love to go.
So much history about the German and the Nazis and you know all the different types of
World War II history buff, and I like that was my favorite, not favorite, but I was just so captivated by all of that and like the awful like massacre that happened, but also wanting to figure out like how did this man, how was he able to do that and like use these people as scapegoats and how did like a people of like a country get swayed by that propaganda, you know, and how it's happening in our current time.
Yeah. Still happening.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just such a fascinating, awful thing. And I was just like, that's one of the things that I've always wanted to go to Germany because I was just really into that. Or like, I was super into serial killers. I really was. I watched Copycat with Holly Hunter and Dermot Mulroney, and I became obsessed with serial killers. I would like literally give myself book reports on serial killers that were not at all like given to me by school.
But the thing is, Liz, it's so interesting, but it's like it's what they've done is horrible, but to watch it and like read about it, and it's very interesting. Yeah, because why they did it, like why would they?
Like, what's the psyche? What's wrong?
What are their motives?
Yeah, and some of them which had such a like a just really like normal upbringing, which I think is the brilliance of like Halloween. Like not the Rob Zombie version, but the original, because it was like this kid from suburbia that seemed to come from like a well-to-do family just goes psycho and kills people. And I think that that's just such like that you don't have to have a horrible life to be a dipshit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like you could be a dipshit.
It's the quiet ones, you know, the quiet ones, the ones that have raised up, and all of a sudden
So one of my favorite horror movies, there you go, Halloween, because
there you go.
Psychological like aspect.
All right, top 3 movies then. You got there's one?
So I'll say Halloween because it's just one of my favorite horror movies. Yeah. I'll say I have to. The X-Files, Fight the Future, tie with I Want to Believe. Screw everybody who didn't like I Want to Believe. It was brilliant. And I will
be a resurgence.
I know, right? And what's my go-to movie? Like, that's just like not in anyone's probably top 10, but I just love it so much and it makes me so happy is Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
Come on.
Well, that or Clueless.
Yeah, Clueless, right?
Yeah.
Right. Whatever. And I'm sorry, we're going off topic. Whatever happened to Alicia Silverstone? Is she still like?
Yeah, she plays the mom on the Babysitters Club on Netflix.
Right.
Yeah.
I had the biggest crush on her when I was
I think I did too. Like, I mean, I was like, I totally could have like gone the other way for her because I loved her in the Aerosmith like videos.
Yes.
Remember when she was like the Aerosmith girl? She did like 3 of them, and I was like, oh, like I was really like, she made me question my sexuality when I was a teenager. So did Gillian Anderson, by the way.
Oh yes, she was a bit of a hottie as well. And music. Top
Kelly
5
Clarkson.
bands.
Kelly Clarkson.
Come on.
Adele. Radiohead.
Oh, nice.
Sigur Rós. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. And Coco Rosie.
Right, that's a good mix.
Super random.
Good
yeah.
Mix. And last one, who is your number one hero? Role model.
I know I'm going to get a lot of shit for this because I got a lot of shit for it in 2016. Hillary Clinton.
Right.
I grew up in the 90s where I saw this very strong woman who did not, or tried not to, even as much as the media forced it on her, let herself be defined by a man. And it was so controversial at the time, and people crucified her for it because she wasn't baking cookies at home. Like literally, she had to go and bake cookies. And it was just this strong chick in fucking pantsuits. And I was like, fuck yes. Like, she's like, fuck you guys. Like, I don't care. But then they did dim her light a little bit. Like, all of that, she took a little bit of a beating, and then she wasn't as free as she was. But I've met her in person several times.
Wow. That's so cool.
She was very kind. And when I met her, she has this ability, like when you're talking to her, she'll hold your hand. And I think it's also a Bill thing, because I met Bill Clinton, or Mr. President, President Clinton, and he also holds your hand. And she held my eye. And when I was talking to her, she was only listening to me. There's people going around her, but she zoned in to make sure that she gave me that moment that I guess she knew that I needed or wanted. And she did that. And then just for someone of that stature, of that, with that much, Secretary of State, she was the first. She was a senator. She was a lawyer. She was a lawyer on the Nixon impeachment. Like this is a woman with a fucking resume. And
social medias, where can our Australian listeners find you online?
So on Twitter, I'm at @eDurazzo, and then Instagram, I'm Elizabeth Durazzo. Facebook, I'm Elizabeth Durazzo, and I have TikTok and Snap, but I'm like not great at that.
Right.
I'm a little technologically challenged.
Didn't it just get banned in the US, TikTok?
I think so, right? Like,
yeah.
It's like illegal now.
The Chinese made it, and then
my sister still uses it. So how is she?
Right. Okay.
Oh, maybe I'm
not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah.
But Instagram and Facebook.
Instagram,
Twitter.
Facebook, and Twitter, yes. I'm not as active on Twitter. You'll mostly see like my weight loss stuff probably, because I just like send it to Twitter. But yeah, Instagram, I try to be active, and then a little bit on Facebook. Because I have my personal page and then I have my public page. Although a lot of people find me and then they add me, and then I feel bad and I add them, and then I'm like, but like, then I can't feel. Then some people will be like, I love your tits on like Reese Strangler. And I'm like, no, that's definitely going to get you like unfriended. Because my niece is on my page. Like,
come on.
Yeah.
All right, Liz. Thank you very much for your time again. I know you're a busy person. Truly inspiring. Keep working hard. Keep doing what you do best. And make sure you come back to Australia when you get a chance.
I want so badly. And don't forget to send me your info so I can send it to Michael, because I'm sure he'd love this.
Yes, I definitely will. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Good day.
Mine's not.
say it in Australia. Good day, mate.
Good day, mate.
Yeah, there you go. You got that accent already. It's great.
Now eat some Vegemite.
Vegemite. Go on, eat some Vegemite now.
Oh my gosh. It was great talking to you.
Great talking to you too.